You're on there, buddy.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the special Budget and Finance Committee of the Foster City Council. Today is July 9th, 2024. We're meeting at the Rose Center for an early 5:30 meeting for Budget and Finance for some year-end transfers to balance our books. And then we'll be council at this location 30. Councilor at Large Tony Gross, Vice Chair of Budget and Finance, and Councilor at Large Jeff Worthley, committee member. Online, we must have Kenny, right? Connor McCorkle, our CFO. So we've been presented with a series of year-end housekeeping transfers, budget transfers to basically balance the accounts prior to closing the books for the fiscal year. Councilor Worthley, I think that's you.
I hit mute before we started, so I don't know why I can't hear. Apologies.
Now we know what happens if you take us off mute. We're all still sitting in our chairs. We weren't blown into the back behind us. Good. So again, with us is the City Auditor, Kenny Costa, and City CFO, Connor McCorkle. Anybody else online with us this evening, Sherry? Currently, okay. Oh, and obviously Sherry White, Clerk of Committees, very much with us, as well as IT. So Kenny and Connor, do you would like to give us some background on how this has gone down and what we're looking at and why this makes sense at this time?
I can start. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We hear you like God.
Okay, great. Thank you, councilors. So as you know, this is normal at this time of year, having closing all the accounts, all the year-end transfers. As you know, that beginning of the year, it started much sooner. As you know, like the last meeting, there was about 2 pages worth of deficits or transfers. This morning, I sent out the initial report, and then I sent out a second report, a much condensed, shorter version. There was some internal transfers, some housekeeping items. So we were able to shorten the report. There's about, I think the latest report was about 50, transfers. As you know, payroll being posted this week, 1 week back to fiscal year 24 and one to fiscal year 25. Departments are still making changes to fiscal year 24 POs. I met with DPW yesterday for 2 hours, going through their purchase orders. So there's a lot going on, this time of year. So it's a little bit over, the SBT is a little bit over $2 million, for transfers, various departments. That's all done internally. And then there's 3 essays before you, one for $190,000 to cover snow and ice. And Councilor Memhard, in the past that number's been a lot larger. And then there's another essay for $180,000 to resolve the building insurance, deficit. And then there's a third essay. This was actually, I met with DPW yesterday, and there's National Grid invoices that total approximately $475,000. So there's a third essay that is needed to pay for National Grid electrical invoices for electricity. So and that's what we have. So so those between the 1 SBT and the 3 essays that will cover all the deficits in the general fund and the enterprise funds. And if Connor wants to add anything else, feel free.
Thank you,
I
Kenny.
think Kenny did a very good job summarizing what all this is.
And just to add too, Connor did a great job. This was his first time, our first rodeo, going through this process, and he did a great job. And we worked well together to close all these deficits.
It's actually his second time, but his first time without John.
Right.
Correct.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of going through these line by line, are there any general questions or comments that councilors would like to pose at this time? Councilor Grow.
Oh, I'm good.
Councilor Worthley.
A couple questions. Great work. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me okay at this point. One is, could we just take it as one vote, sort of as noted, or do we need to go through each line item? That's a question here, or for Kenny to verify that. So why don't we just stick with that question first?
I would say if I may, the SBT, I would say as noted is fine. But I would say the three SAs, I think that could be voted separately.
And
just the only thing I was going to add, just so you know the difference between the SBTs and the SA. So the SBTs, it's very different. It's a transfer within the budget. The SA, supplemental appropriation, that means we're adding money to the budget. It's coming from an outside source. It's coming from the general stabilization account. So it's adding money, to the budget. So the two are the SA and the special budgetary transfer are very, very different. Just to make note of that.
on that difference, I think the supplemental appropriation is money coming from the stabilization account and would need a 2/3 majority of the council. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, talk often about not using one-time money for recurring expenses. We found that in the last budget. That was part of the course for a lot of it. This is using some one-time money to fill in the gaps in the snow and ice budget, correct?
Correct.
Oh, we, on your email, one of your emails today, the local revenue numbers for the fourth quarter came in just last week, and those were, I think, higher than budgeted. Is that factored into this, or does that go into cash, or does that go into next year's budget, depending on the timing when we receive that money?
Yeah. So revenues, it's totally different. So revenues, you budget for a number, and then there's actual. So there's budget to actual. So that's something that is done later. So we'll look at what was budgeted and what actually came in. So there'll be pluses and negatives when we look at revenue. So today we're strictly just looking at appropriations. We're just looking at expenses.
Additional
as part of
revenue
this
that we didn't
process.
plan on doesn't factor into this equation at all. Is that
Correct.
Okay.
Because we've already set the recap. We already set the rate. So we're not able to raise additional funds. So once the tax rate is set, if any additional revenues come in, we're not able to appropriate any additional funds. So that process is done.
Even if
So
it came
like in
in
fiscal year,
last
for example, in
sorry.
fiscal year 25, if there was a brand new revenue, a new category that came to the city, we would have essentially 5 months.
I got it. And that is true for revenue that came in from last year. It's not something we can consider in any of this discussion. So that gets done through the recap process.
Kenny, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm wondering if Kenny might have disconnected, but revenue from last year would get factored into the expenses, and that would have been part of the FY23 free cash.
I missed one word. Revenue from 24, which just ended, will get counted in 23 free cash?
Sorry, revenue from 24 will be compared against expenses, and that will be used to calculate the free cash for 2024.
Got it. And that's not done until fall or even winter time.
Yeah, that's always the hope, is to have it done around October, maybe earlier.
Got it. I was just looking if there's other sources for money, but that can be other sources for other things later. Thank you. I'm good.
The Rolling Stone.
As we get to the motions.
Okay, so we're going to start. Number one on our item are the 1, 2, 4 special budgetary transfers. Well, three special appropriation, supplemental appropriations, and then we get special budgetary transfers. So taking them in order here, number one is SA, Supplemental Appropriation 2024, SA number 25. And the proposed recommendation for the Budget and Finance Committee is to recommend that the City Council approve a supplemental appropriation 2024 SA number 25 in the amount of $190,000 from the General Stabilization Fund undesignated fund balance account number as noted to the General Fund DPW Snow and Ice Plow and Salting account number as noted, and this is for the purpose of covering the snow and ice budget deficit at fiscal year 2024 year end. And I so move.
Second.
Discussion. None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This motion passes on a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed. 2024 SA number 26. Proposed recommendation is for us to recommend that the City Council approve a supplemental appropriation at 2024 supplemental appropriation number 26, and this is in the amount of $180,000 from the General Stabilization Fund undesignated fund balance account number is noted to the General Fund Building Insurance Liability Insurance account number as noted, and this is for the purpose of covering building insurance budget deficit at fiscal year 2024 year end. The amount again is $180,000, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion. I would just ask if the you can fill us in a little bit on the background of the insurance costs exceeding budget to this extent, and whether that is a reflection of claims that have been made and or the general climate that the city is.
So this is a tough one for me because I'm not sure what John's rationale was when he picked this number. My best estimate is he probably didn't have the final fee schedule from Maya when he put the insurance costs in, so it just came a little bit under. But no major claims or anything. This was just the cost of the insurance policy for the buildings.
Councilor, questions? Thank you, Connor. None? Motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. The next item is 2024 SA number 27, the committee recommendation to recommend that the City Council approve a supplemental appropriation 2024 SA number 26 in the amount of $475,000 from the General Stabilization Fund undesignated fund balance account number as noted to the General Fund DPW Facilities Electricity account number as noted, and this is for the purpose of covering the DPW electricity budget deficit at fiscal year 2024 year end, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion.
Connor, we didn't get a supplemental budget request breakdown on this, so we don't have what's in the, unless that came later, we don't have what's left in the General Stabilization Fund. I did some math, but do you have it there? So,
Oh yeah, it's $4.6 million, just a hair over, $4.61 million after these 3 appropriations.
yeah. And Okay, I guess that was really my question, and we have no idea why this was so underfunded either, correct?
So my understanding after talking to the DPW is the new school was entirely electrified. So they did their best estimate of what it would cost to cover the electricity costs. This was the first full year, so it came in higher than anticipated. So we've corrected it in 2025. We have a more appropriate number budgeted, but for this first year, we just came in a little low.
Did rate increases contribute to this too?
Yes, I think the cost of electricity is just higher than it was also.
Thank you.
Other councilor questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Get to our host of special budgetary transfers, and as was discussed earlier, these are within the city's budget, moving funds departments from departments where there was a year-end available surplus that's not committed to fund other city departments that have general comments or questions, or shall I take these or as a whole as we discussed?
The whole is fine with me.
Just for reference, the council can't initiate transfers. We can't much in terms of making changes to these. We need to make the budget balanced, and I don't think there's a lot for us to discuss it. There's not a lot for us to really. Okay.
Yep, no, I'm in complete agreement.
Of course. So we have I would move to recommend that the City Council approve the following special budgetary transfer for SBT number 11 for the purpose of funding and making whole fiscal year 2024 account deficits totaling $1,698,150. The accounts are listed. Amount is $1,698,153.
Second.
Seconded. Questions or discussion? Fourthly.
For anyone who may be listening now or in the future, just to be clear, this isn't costing people more money. It's not a fee increase. It's not a tax increase. This is when you're talking about a $150 million budget, you make your best guesses, and that essentially is what a budget is. It's a best guess. And in some cases, some departments are going to be overspending. That's the wrong word. We'll have overspent because of different obligations. In some cases, they will have not. And this is just evening them out before the year is over. So I hope I've explained that in a way that's helpful. I support it.
Other discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Any other business before us at this special meeting?
Okay.
Seeing none. There's a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're hereby adjourned.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
Just, are you still with us?
Yeah, I apologize. I disconnected. You did take up SA 25, correct? The one for snow and ice. I didn't hear that one.
No, we didn't manage to skip it. Sorry.
All right, good.
Going to be at the council?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are adjourned until the council meeting reconvenes in half hour.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Connor. Congratulations on weaving the needle.
Thank you.
Threading the needle, weaving the net.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.